This is Moneyline Mania with Chaz and the crew.
Chazzy, how was the horse racing?
It really depends on what side of the racing form you were on, because Wes and I had two totally different days.
Wes, how are you? How's the son doing?
He's doing great. Thanks for asking. He's learning how to read racing forms and cover point spreads and grouchy at certain times. But you know what? He's sleeping 10 to 12 hours a night, so I couldn't ask for anything better.
Well, you have a wife that can sing him to sleep, so that's a good sign.
It's great. She does do that.
You should have Chaz's O Canada recording that you use for your show playing in the background to fall asleep.
I have plenty of me singing "O Canada"
after
I get all rummed up. And,
Well, you are in Kansas City, and your wife is the backup singer for the Phil Collins band. That's great.
She is, and she's actually got a performance here shortly this evening. Just got news that there's going to be 4 tour dates, 2 of which are in Jersey in January.
You guys can come and stay with us. We haven't had Wes on for a little while. He's been very, very busy, but it's slowing down, and we're happy to have him back. So why don't we get into it?
When we wake up in the morning, the first half probably will be over in the Germany game. It won't be the last time we talk about Germany on this show, because I've got 2 Germany tickets for a World Cup. I've had Seattle now, I think 3 weeks in a row on the money line. They've been getting points every week. Every week they're winning their team total. The way we bet, if you find the right opportunity, there's really no other word for it. You don't need to handicap 5 games to win 5 bets. You handicap 1 game, you win 5 bets. That's what Seattle's been doing. I don't check the scores. I don't turn the TV on. I open up my sportsbook account, which is still illegal here in California. Yeah, come find me. Then what I do is I check my balance, and if it's higher than it was when I went to bed, I made money while I slept.
Chaz for mayor, everybody.
What do you think, Wes? You don't touch the primetime games. What about the early morning games?
Oh, no, I love the early morning game. This one is a difficult one for me to swallow because I like to watch line movement. I like to see where everybody's money is. This one opened at 10 points. Tampa was a 10-point favorite, and there's been so much action on the side that you're going with on Seattle that it is now down to 2.5, and I just can't wrap my head around taking either side. This is one I'm probably going to play live. It's 44.5 as the over-under. I'm leaning towards the over in this game because Seattle doesn't struggle to put up points, and Tampa is probably going to start putting up points. Tampa, believe it or not, is still alive in that division, sitting at 4-5 right now. Brady showed up a little bit last week against a tough defense, but the odds makers are smarter than all 4 of us. The spread opened at 10 points. Somebody very bright made a point spread of 10 points, and I can't find a way or a reason that Tampa's even going to show up in this game, other than the fact that Brady is just more poised than what the Seattle team's going to be. That's the only true angle I can find for Tampa. I'm probably going to play this live, but the 44.5 over looks to be the play on the 8:30 in the morning. The real NFL game that I'm interested in and I'm going with is I'm taking Buffalo. Whether Josh Allen starts or not, I'm taking Buffalo. The Minnesota pass defense is horrendous, and you could take Josh Allen out of the game. They have 3 capable running backs, 2 of which are tremendous out of the backfield, which is exactly what a Case Keenum backup quarterback needs, is these little check down positive yardage to the running back. They have great receivers. Buffalo is top 10 in almost every defensive statistic that there is, including rushing. I'm laying the 3 points and taking Buffalo regardless of who's taking the snaps for the Bills.
I like Seattle. Seattle has proven that they're a playoff contending team. I like their offensive line. I like their running game. Kenneth Walker has been fantastic since he's started after Penny got hurt for the rest of the season. I think he's the future. I think he's one of the top running backs of the future. We talk about Breece Hall and what he looked like before he got hurt. I think Kenneth Walker is going to be right there with the Breece Halls of the world. I like what I see with Geno Smith. I think he's an MVP candidate. I think they're going to lay the smacketh on Tom Brady. As far as the Buffalo Bills game, you say that Buffalo has a good running game. I don't really like their running game. I do like Diggs. I do like Gabe Davis. I think they have a tremendous amount of firepower in the open field. The offensive line looked horrible last week against the New York Jets. I know it's the New York Jets. It's a different defense than the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota has been very overrated this year. They're a one-trick pony. They like to throw the ball to Jefferson. If you could shut down Jefferson and you give the ball to Dalvin Cook, we haven't seen a lot of Dalvin Cook. We haven't seen a lot of Thielen. Kirk Cousins depends on one guy in Jefferson. If you could shut him down, you could shut this offense down. I don't like Minnesota. I think they're highly overrated. They're the worst top team in the NFL right now.
I'm not saying they have a great rush attack. I'm saying I like the 3 running backs that they have. Mm-hmm. And I think with Josh Allen not a part of the running game, we're going to see the mix of the 3 running backs, which is exactly what's needed to get Case Keenum some better looks and access to Diggs.
Everything that I've heard, Josh Allen is playing in this game. He hasn't practiced all week. They're protecting him, but he will start on Sunday. Is he going to throw the ball 40 times? I don't think he's throwing the ball 40 times. I see him throwing 30 times. He threw the ball after he hurt his arm last week when Huff hit him. Down the field to Gabe Davis, almost 55 yards, and he didn't really grab his arm. So I know a lot of people are worried about this UCL situation, this nerve damage. He's already had this problem, and he never had surgery on his arm. This is not a pitcher. This is a quarterback, and they throw the ball completely different. Do I think Josh Allen will be okay? I do. The only thing that I worry about him is if his offensive line protects him. He cannot get hit like that, like he did last week when Huff hit him, because if that happens, he could be out for the season.
The point spread was 8 before the announcement of his UCL and the potential for Tommy John surgery. The spread is now 3. I would advise anybody listening to this, if you are on the Buffalo side, lay the 3 before it turns into 8.
The reason I like Buffalo has nothing to do with the offense. 100% looking at the defensive side. They've got the best defense last year. They've got the best defense this year. I just don't see Minnesota going in there and scoring any points. And normally, what would you have to give with Buffalo? 10. So you give them 4. 17, 13, and they win.
I do believe Minnesota will score. I think it'll be under 44. I could see Buffalo still scoring 21 points. I could see the Minnesota Vikings scoring 14.
We're looking at potential snow.
Every Buffalo game, except for one, has gone under 44 this year.
Yeah.
Every one. Nobody has scored 22 on them.
What a game the Jets had last week. Fantastic game. And showed you why the Jets are going to be one of those favorite teams making the playoffs this year. You have shutdown quarters like DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner. You can win games. But I like Buffalo. I also liked Seattle. I don't know what's going on with Tampa. I don't know what's going on with the LA Rams. Everybody was expecting these teams to be Super Bowl contenders. Tom Brady decided to come back. He lost his wife. He's getting a divorce. He lost everything. Look what he came back to. He came back to a catastrophe. And then Matthew Stafford, he hasn't been the same really since the OTA started. They said there was something wrong with his arm. There must be something wrong with his arm because he can't throw the ball.
Their offense in LA is inept. Normally, we see a Super Bowl hangover, but it's the team that lost the Super Bowl. And Cincinnati doesn't look bad at all, especially for playing in a division with Baltimore. Although for Cincinnati, Pittsburgh's coming. TJ Watt is coming back this weekend. Here very shortly, we're going to have Deshaun Watson in that division. So the hangover might come to Cincinnati, but it's unique to see the Super Bowl champion just look as mediocre at best as these Rams have looked.
Horrible. After watching the Rams versus Tampa Bay last week, I wanted to fall asleep. I was sitting at the bar. I was eating my food. I'm like, I'd rather watch the Seattle game. Seattle and Arizona. That was more exciting watching Geno Smith throw the ball than watch Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford, arguably two top-end quarterbacks, going at it, and nobody gave a crap.
And that's why the Germany game is the Geno Smith show and then just some guy named Tom Brady.
Isn't it great to watch Geno, though? People forget that Geno Smith had West Virginia #1 ranked at one point. There was a game that Geno threw 38 of 41. Mm-hmm. That is difficult to do against air, and he did it against Power 5 football teams. Geno can ball.
No, he can.
What a different quarterback he is now. Polished, not going to make the mistakes to beat you. If you make a mistake in the NFL, you really can't overcome those. These teams are too good to overcome making mistakes, especially if you're giving up the ball in the red zone turnovers. What about the Jeff Saturday show?
I am on Indy, and I got it when it was at 6, and it's kind of all over the place.
Wow.
Indy does not have a bad roster. That is a good collection of talent that is underperforming. And what a great time to play against the Raiders. I don't care where that game takes place. Our buddy John from GMF would probably tell us what the feel is like in that stadium. But I bet that there's 40% visiting fans in that stadium just taking a weekend in Vegas. But I've always had this rule with sports betting. When a head coach gets fired, take that team the following week if the roster's worth anything. And Indy has arguably the best running back in football, but at minimum a top 3. They got some capable receivers. They got some good names on defense. And they're playing against a very terrible team. Yeah. And now they're going to bring Jeff Saturday into the building. Reggie Wayne was already on staff. There was a lot made of Reggie Wayne and the fact that he didn't get a look. But Saturday is going to bring some energy into that place. I don't know how they finish, but I like them to get an outright win this week.
The Raiders in their franchise history, which has been since 1960, that through last year, they blew 5 7 17-plus point leads. This year they've blown 3.
Josh McDaniel.
He'll be back with New England before you know it.
You know where he needs to go if he wants to learn how to be a head coach and go to head coach rehab? He needs to take himself to Bama. St. Nick doesn't rehab him. He just provides a safe place for them.
Oh my God, all the Bama fans would love it. They would want Bill O'Brien gone in a heartbeat.
You go to Bama and you somehow come out the other end smelling rosy.
Adam Gase was very close to being the Bama offensive coordinator about a year ago. Now he's coaching high school ball.
Sunday night, Monday night game, I did a parlay. First player to score parlay, and I hit the one, Kansas City, whoever scored the touchdown. But I had him with Drake for Baltimore. It was 149-1. I had to spend the whole day Monday live on a 149-1 shot. The dude ended up getting 2 touchdowns, but it wasn't the first one. But sports betting, Wes, you don't get a lot of 149-1 shots. We get them, every day in the horse racing, but you don't get a lot in sports betting.
You sure don't. I remember the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Mark Cuban, that placed a large bet on the first score of the game being a safety back in the Seattle-Denver Super Bowl. Yeah. I was reminded of it because the first score of USC-Colorado, the first score was a safety.
And the Giants-Patriots, the second Super Bowl, the first score was a safety.
Yeah.
I remember that one. Somebody won a lot of money.
How much did Mark Cuban win?
I thought he bet $1 million on it.
He made a lot of money.
Even to him, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a set of balls. You can do that. I wouldn't be doing that. Not with $1 million. I don't care how much money I have. I'm not putting $1 million on a safeties. How many times do you see a safety?
When crypto was rocking and cannabis was just getting legal and these young kids were just having boatloads of cash, they do stuff like that. And somewhere there's a 28-year-old kid that is saying, I had $4 million and I bet it on a game. If you're young and the cash is flowing, you do stupid stuff with it.
Seems like Mark Cuban isn't stupid.
He's a different breed.
The only way to win the lottery is to buy a ticket.
In California, somebody did and won $1.9 billion.
Chaz, you could use that as leverage when you run for mayor.
I would have loved to be that
go.
guy.
That's not even life-changing money. That's family, generational changing money.
Yeah.
What about the Sunday night? We got the Chargers in San Francisco. These are both teams, right, playing for playoff position. And then Monday we got Washington and Philly. Now, their 2 records are totally different, but they're against the spread records, which is really all Wes and I care about, are really pretty close. They're a half game difference.
7 points is a lot. They're both coming off of some time off. The Niners is probably where I would go if I had to. They have a way better roster. They're loaded on offense. They now have had a bye week to figure out what they're going to do with C-Mac. They didn't even know what they were doing with him a couple weeks ago when he threw one, caught one, ran one. So Garoppolo can manage the game with all that talent. 7's a lot, but if I have to choose, there's no way I'm betting against that Niners roster, and there's certainly no way I'm going to put anything on that coach for the Chargers.
Wouldn't you think that another week with that guy, Deebo Samuel's not a slob, right? He's a pretty good offensive threat. You have another week with that guy, and then all of a sudden you're not getting the pounding. McCaffrey got beat up. His whole career, he got beat up. If you say you're only getting 15 touches, but you might end up getting as much yardage as you did when you were getting 30 touches, that means you're not getting hit 15 times, and those guys get hit. Running backs get hit.
The Chargers also allowed 201 rushing yards last week to Atlanta, who doesn't really have the greatest running backs in the world. They have a couple good rookies, but they're not Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, and even Deebo Samuel could run
Atlanta
the ball
looked
well,
horrible on Thursday.
I still can't believe that game didn't go over. They had all the yards. They just moved up and down the field, and then they
Yeah,
shot
because the
themselves in
defender,
foot.
defender had to fumble on when he recovered the ball after Eckler fumbled.
Those Thursday night games just miserable.
Don't worry, Chaz. When you become mayor, you could force the Spanos to sell the Chargers.
Killing me.
I was miserable. I was sitting in a sauna the other day, and one of the guys was listening to me. I was getting ready for my radio show, so I was running home, and then he said, who do you have, Carolina or Atlanta? I said, give me Atlanta and tell your guy that they're covering. And what happens? They lose, and Carolina covers.
They should have listened to you, Wes. Don't bet the primetime games.
I still was shocked that Carolina did that 21-3 thing to Tampa. The week after they lost their best player, he was like a third of their offense. Hey, Wes, we didn't talk Sunday football. We got Sunday football. They count. The two most important games. We haven't talked about it yet.
And I hope that there's at least one listener out there that cares about what's going on north of the border, because it's very exciting and it is my strongest sport. I picked Toronto Argonauts to win the Grey Cup and the CFL playoffs, and so we're in our conference finals right now. The long shot pick that I have at this point, I'm taking the Argos money line, but the surprising one is I'm taking BC against Winnipeg. It's a 5-point spread. Winnipeg, 2 in a row, going for a 3-peat Grey Cup champions. They have not played meaningful football since right around September. The last time they played a game that wasn't to clinch their division, it was against Edmonton, which means nothing. So at this point last year, their quarterback threw 3 interceptions in a game coming back from the bye. And now they're going up against Nathan Rourke. Those of you that follow the MAC, the University of Ohio, Nathan Rourke would be the most outstanding player in the CFL had he not gotten injured. So I'm taking the 5 points. I'm also taking money line. I like BC to walk into Winnipeg in a tremendous upset and take them down. And I also like Toronto on the money line. And I think we're looking at a BC Toronto Grey Cup.